I got a whole squad, man. I don't know how you and the Mad Dog used to do 5 hours. We can barely put together 30 minutes, so I respect
We did 5.5 every day, and then I did 5.5 by myself for 10 years, 11 years before I finally decided to not do it anymore. So it was for a long. Basically, what happened was the idea was to control 2 time periods. Is really what it was. It was to control drive time, but also control midday. And Dog and I hit them up for enough money where they had to have 2 time periods to pay us.
Obviously, you and Mad Dog started the sports talk radio world that we live in now. They tried to do it beforehand. It just wouldn't work until you and your absolutely electric personality got behind a microphone. I'm diving into this world now. I asked Dan Patrick, who is also a notable sports broadcaster and daytime talk show, for advice. He told me always keep the show in mind and basically thank my boys and keep it moving. If you had to give somebody advice that was going to go down the career path that you dominated, what would it be?
Be informed. You want to be entertaining. And you want to try and give your audience something they don't have. Now, it's changed. When we started, Pat, we had more information than the audience did. Now the audience got every bit of information you have. So that's gone, okay? So now it's about different. It's about perspective. It's about opinion. It's about your take. So you got to have a personality, and you have to have a good take on things. That's going to be the guys who are going to break through now are the ones who have a take that is original and is entertaining. That's gonna be what separates the next group of people who are successful at this. Because, there's so much out there. There's so much clutter. When we started, there wasn't a lot there. We started Sports Talk Radio. And it was failing when Dog and I took over. It was actually they were almost done with it. They were bleeding money. They were losing their shirt. Now remember, if it wasn't for Imus keeping us afloat before, with regular show in the morning, the Fan never would have made it. So it took a little while for it to get going, but once it did, it really took off. So now you have a format that's saturated. Now you have podcasts where everybody has a podcast. You can't bump into someone who doesn't have a podcast, okay? Every producer has a podcast, okay? If you bump into an intern, I guarantee he's got a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. So that makes it basically a world of clutter. You got to cut through that, okay? Now, you get an advantage if someone knows you like you're well known, but you have to somehow cut through. And I think that's where it comes into having a good take, an original take, a personality that makes you different. Whatever it is that makes you different, whether it's attitude, whether it's perspective, that's really what it comes down to. You have to somehow cut through the clutter.
Okay, so you're obviously a man that I look up to, a lot of people in the world that do this daily talk show thing. Who are some people that you've noticed in the line of business that we're in? Well, I'm not in. I mean, I'm going to get in. That you have
What do you mean? You're in it big now. They tell me you're doing great. You actually tell me you're one of the few people actually making any money with a podcast, so God bless you.
Francesa. I'm a lucky man.
Because most people who are doing podcasts are working for free.
Oh, a lot, by the way. A lot of people. There's a few of us that get very lucky that we get a chance to pay some folks with the advertising. Who are some people that are younger that you enjoy in the sports talk world? Anybody? Or is it kind of just such a different world now that you kind of think shit of it?
I don't comment on others because it's not fair. So I've heard everybody, and I got to be honest. I don't listen to other people. I got to be very honest. I don't listen to the radio. I listen to the music. I listen to sometimes I listen to financial shows, or I listen to political talk. I don't listen to a lot of sports talk. So I mean, I know the young guys who have come through my show, and there's a million of them who are all working now, who are all in the business. So there's a lot of them. There's some good guys out there. I'm sure there'll be some unique guys out there. There's some characters out there. Simmons is a character, okay? He's not as smart as he thinks he is, but who would be? But listen, it's about, like I said, you have to cut through. You got to figure out a way to make people notice, and then you got to somehow brand what you're doing, because that's the only way you're going to make money now, because there's so much out there. It's hard for people who are executives, and most of them don't have a clue what's good or what's bad anyway. They really don't. They might act like they do, but they don't. It's all guesswork. So they have to see where there's a brand, somebody that they can latch onto, And that's what really you need, because that's what sponsors notice, and that's really what executives who are going to program these things notice. They're going to notice somebody who they've noticed or heard is hot. That's what they'll go by.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've been able to ride the herd and keep the herd hot for a long time and adapt to different things. Now we're in a digital age. The Mike's On app, by the way, legendary, trailblazing. We were thinking about doing the same thing, and we actually got referred to your app on numerous occasions. The ability to adapt to a new platform and a new world. How was that whole process? And do you hate the Back After This Twitter account, who is a Twitter thread, basically, of your best hits, just all day, every day?
There are 3 or 4 full-time apps and full-time accounts on Twitter that follow me. I understand it's part of the business. So I actually can tell you, and you can check this with the guys who work for me, I've never referred to it. I don't follow it. I don't read what's said about me. I don't follow it. First of all, I don't have time. I would not be able to do it. I would do it all day. All I know is I just noticed that for whatever reason, anything I do gets attention. I mean, that's all there is to it. Like last week, I said I wasn't going to Giant Camp, and that was the biggest story in New York. And I was in Saratoga running my horses, and I didn't even know that they were going crazy in New York about this fact that a couple reporters were chasing me down, asking me why I wasn't going to Giant Camp. And I wasn't going because the general manager wouldn't talk to me. So I said, I'm not going if you won't do an interview with me. So I wouldn't go. So that became the biggest story last week. So, I mean, it wasn't anything I did. I just actually said I wasn't going. For the first time in 40 years, I wasn't going to Giant Camp. They asked me why. I said because the general manager wouldn't do an interview with me. And then that became the biggest story last week for the whole week.
Oh, what a legend.
I mean, it just, listen, it's just, some people just cause a firestorm. I'm one of those people for whatever reason. I didn't ask people to do it. It just kind of followed me. And the digital thing, it's funny. The digital thing really started when Dog left. And it really was not something that he and I dealt with. It's something I've dealt with. And it just was, that's when Francesa started. That's when all this Pope nonsense started. That's when all this other stuff started with Barstool and the T-shirts and all that and everything else. So it's really about 10 years old, and a lot of that was really me, not us. I mean, the Mike and the Mad Dog life was a very different life, and it was all pre-Twitter, pre-digital, all that stuff. That was not part of our 20 years. That's everything from that has come afterwards. That's all this new stuff. And it keeps changing. Like, I don't have an Instagram account. My kids talk to me about what's on Instagram when we're in the car. I have 3 teenagers, twins, boy and girl, and a son 12, and boy and girl twins 14. So they tell me everything. Dad, you should see what's on Instagram. You should see, Dad, you're like trending here. You're doing this, you're doing that. I don't even pay attention to it, to be honest with you. I might be in the swimming pool when they're doing it.
Just the thought. There's the thought of you getting behind a microphone, saying something, the world burning down, and just walking to the backyard and hopping in a pool.
That's basically it. On Eli tweet, when they went crazy on Eli, I got like about 1 million hits, and I wasn't even on the air when it happened. I did it and left.
Is there any moment you look back on in this incredible, 30-year, 3-decade run of dominance in sports talk where you go, that moment was awesome? Like, that was the moment that, like, it's the first moment that you had maybe in this world where it seemed as if everything was much bigger than you could have ever imagined. I mean, you mentioned Francesa. I watched it on the 30 for 30. There was people losing their minds for you. It was like people have said this about my listeners, but it was like a cult was following you around.
Yeah, the first Francesa was really strange. I was not expecting it. I had heard about it the first year, and I didn't attend it. And they had it about 10 different places the first year on the same date. Then they decided to put it all in one place, and I said I would attend. And I'm figuring I'm walking in on a Saturday on a couple of people. I walk in and there's thousands of people in there and just going absolutely berserk. So yeah, that was an unusual day. I have to admit, that one was very surprising. If I go back through the Mike and the Mad Dog thing, for us, you got to remember, it was all new to us. Believe it or not, if I went back and showed you the critiques of Mike and the Mad Dog when it started, people hated it. They thought we should get split up. We shouldn't work together. We were bad together. All we did was fight. And then the first rating book came out, and we were a sensation. And then everyone said, "Oh, they're great together." So really, it wasn't anything that we did. It was that we got results. So as soon as we got results, within 9 months, we were number one by a mile. I mean, we were on the air. We took over a show that was in like 15th place. We went to third in the first book. We went to first in the second book. We went to first by like a mile and a half in the third book. And then it was, oh my God, we were like royalty in New York. And that was it. It was over. It was no longer ever a question if we would be together. It was, would we be together for the rest of our lives because we were so successful. So it wasn't anything that we did on the air that caused it. It was just that we had so much success from a rating standpoint that it just became, and then everything, we were the first at everything. We didn't have any competition. Every interview came to us. Every athlete came to us. Every coach came to us. I'll give you a perfect example. We would go do a game, Knicks, Indiana, Game 7. And at 5 o'clock for a 9 o'clock game, Pat Riley would come out courtside and do a half hour with us live before Game 7. I mean, a half hour live. And he'd do that before every big game. And we would get the coaches. We would get, Friday Super Bowl, we'd get George Young, or we'd get the coach on. And we had offensive coordinators from the Super Bowl. I'll give you Super Bowls, but we were the only show there. We were the only show at the Super Bowl. We had the guys on who were coaching the game on Fridays on our show. That's how long we were doing this.